Hey there YouTube, it's Bobby aka Paginator, and I'm here today with my March reading wrap-up. So I decided to change up the way that I do my reading wrap-ups. Usually I go in chronological order of what I read and when I read it. But I decided that now I'm going to, or at least for this month, who knows what happens next time, I'm going to start with my official 5 books from my TBR and then work through middle grade and young adult plus any other that I read during the month. So the first book on my official TBR is Wonderscape by Jennifer Bell, and I took it to school like I usually do, and so it's there. So I'll have to insert a picture for you here. So this book is about 3 kids who end up somehow magically stepping into a video game set in the year 2064, I believe it is. Or maybe even further ahead than that. Maybe it's like 2400 something. But they're now in this kind of Ready Player One-ish world where they have to play their way out of the game in order to return home, because the only way to go back in time is to find a very certain specific person within the world of this game, which happens to be someone that went missing a while ago. But it was a really good read, and I very highly enjoyed it. Up next was another middle grade, Frostheart by Jamie Littler. It is both written and illustrated by Jamie Littler, and it is full of very well done illustrations. I just randomly opened to one, and you can see this one here. Let's see if we can pull up one more. Oh, here's our main character's hugging his abominable snowman foster father. Anyway, this is about a young man named Ash who thinks that he is a song weaver. I think that's the term, where he can sing and do magic. And when his powers are revealed, he is whisked away aboard this trading ship, the Frostheart, because they feel like he can be of use to them, and his people in his home village don't want him there. So he goes on this voyage, and it's full of adventure and creatures and interesting magical powers, and it was a very, very fun read. The next book on my TBR was House with the Chicken Legs by Sophie Anderson, and I really wanted to get the British cover, but I wasn't able to find it, and so I ended up with the American cover, and that's okay. It was still a really fun read. It's about a girl named Marinka, who is the granddaughter of a Yaga, and their job is to move the souls of the dead toward the next life. And she doesn't want to be a Yaga, she wants a real friend, and so when she takes a chance to try to make a real friend, it leads to disastrous consequences for her grandma and for their house and so many things. But very fun read, and we'll come back to Sophie Anderson in a minute. Then on my TBR, I needed an LGBTQ plus romance, and I picked up the Henna Wars. I actually listened to this on audio, and I would definitely recommend this book either to listen or to read the physical copy. This is about a young girl who at a wedding holds hands with a girl and kind of goes, oh, I kind of like this girl. She had come out to some members of her family, and due to their culture, they did not approve and thought she was going through some kind of phase. But later on, she finds out that this girl that she held hands with at this wedding and had this kind of moment with is now going to her school. And I believe it's an all-girls school, if I remember right. But they both, for this business fair, decide to start doing henna business. And our main character, Nishat, henna is part of her culture, and it's not part of this other girl's, and so she feels like that girl is culturally appropriating, and it's really offensive, but they end up kind of in this battle of their henna businesses. But it was a fun story. And the last official TBR book for the month of March was Eventide by Sarah Goodman. This takes place in Arkansas in 1907, and we have 11-year-old Lila and 17-year-old Verity, who are sisters, and they have been sent west on an orphan train. Verity is adopted by a single school teacher in this Arkansas town, and Verity is taken in by a family as an indenture. So she's in the same town as her sister, and she's allowed to visit, but the lady who's adopted her sister is weird, like crazy cuckoo, and has some very odd ideas, and immediately starts making Lila call her mama, and like just you get weird vibes from her. And scary things happen around her eventually. But Verity, the family who takes her in as an indenture, that was a situation where you kind of worked for your keep, and then when you reached a certain point, like your age of majorityhood, etc., then you could choose to leave. So it wasn't an official adoption. But this family that takes her in is really good people. And she does form a romantic interest with their nephew. So that's a part of the story as well. But there are a lot of social themes here about social status and what's acceptable for women to do and not do, and so on. And as the paranormal elements come into it, there are ghosts and undead elements and creepy forests. So it was definitely an interesting read, and I was able to listen to this one on audio as well and do some diamond painting while I listened, so that was fun. Alright, so for middle grade books, in the month of March that weren't officially on my TBR, we're going to start with Boy by Roald Dahl. This is a memoir collection of his childhood, and a lot of it takes place in boarding schools because he did spend a good share of his childhood in boarding schools, and there were some weird things that happened there. I read this for one of my grad school classes. I'm taking a class on writing for children and young adults, and the professor asked me to read this book, and it was really fun. It's a short book. Like, it looks like a pretty standard paperback size, but it reads so fast because they are small stories. And we also learn about a funny story from Roald Dahl's childhood where everlasting gobstoppers are a thing, and they show up later in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. When he was a child, they would go to the store and buy these gobstoppers. They weren't called everlasting gobstoppers, but they were basically the same thing. You'd suck on them and they changed color. And the woman who ran the store was like, they thought she was nasty and mean and really gross and dirty. So one time they found a dead mouse and they put it in one of the jars of the candy so that when she reached into it, she would find a dead mouse. Oh, crazy. Oh, but also like fun childhood pranks. They did get pretty severely punished when they were caught, though, which I didn't enjoy that part because it involved corporal punishment, and I'm not a fan. But the book in general was a really good read, and if you're looking for something that's nonfiction but also like has that middle grade kind of feel, this is a great one to pick up. I also read The Girl Who Speaks Bear by Sophie Anderson, same author as The House with the Chicken Legs. This is another kind of Russian folklore kind of thing. We have a girl who is called Yanka the Bear because she's a very large girl in her village and she's like really strong. And one night after kind of like this festival of springtime, she wakes up and realizes that she has bear legs. And she can suddenly understand the animals, like the weasel that lived in their house that would catch mice for them can speak to her and she can understand him. And she goes into the woods and there's this bird talking to her, and she meets a wolf and like all these different creatures, and kind of ends up learning a lot of things about herself, her family, things she didn't know before. There had always been this rumor that she had been related to the Tsarina, the bear Tsarina. And there's a whole like folklore of the Tsar and Tsarina becoming bears, and they had a child, but she turned from bear into human and was later found in a bear cave and adopted, and Yanka was adopted when she was found in a cave with a bear. So she kind of feels like maybe she's related to them, and there's a whole lot of things that we discover about her, and it's very magical and a good like middle school, it's a good middle grade adventure in the woods. That's what I was trying to say. Another middle grade is A Wolf for a Spell by Kara Sutton. And this one was one I listened to on audio as well, and it was so lovely. We have Zima, who is a wolf, and since she was a pup, she's been taught to fear humans, especially witches. But when her family is threatened, I'm going to read a little bit from the dust jacket. It says, she has no choice but to seek help from the witch Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga never does magic for free, but it just so happens that she needs a wolf keen nose for a secret plan she's brewing. Before Zima knows what's happening, the witch has cast a switching spell and run off into the woods, while Zima is left behind in Baba Yaga's hut and Baba Yaga's body. So, yes, this is the third book inspired by Russian folklore and Baba Yaga in this month. All of them are middle grade. 2 of them have shape-shifting animals, like closely related, but all very different and very enjoyable. But I highly, highly recommend this one. Again, it is A Wolf for a Spell. Kara Sutton is the author, and just this cover is so pretty. Look at it. And I love the main character, Zima. She's so, so sweet and like really tries. When she gets forced into Baba Yaga's body, she's like, okay, I guess I'm here. I gotta try to help people. Which is something that the actual Baba Yaga never really did. Then I just have one more book to hold up and show. I did read some graphic novels, but I took them to school, and I kind of feel like I'm just going to move on to the last physical book I have to hold up for you. And that is The Truth Project by Dante Medina. This is a verse novel. It is young adult. It is beautiful. It is about a girl who's 17, and she takes a DNA test, and she's going to write poems about it and turn it into like her senior project. But the DNA results let her know that the person she thought was her dad, like that raised her, isn't her father. She has a different biological dad. At the same time, she's having friend issues because she requested to be partnered with Kodiak Jones, a longtime crush and former childhood best friend. And so her current best friend is mad at her for not like requesting they work together on their projects. And there's that. So she's got a lot of stuff that she's dealing with, but it really turns out beautifully. And we see her learn that finding her bio dad isn't the answer to all of her problems. She's got to figure out how to fix them herself, which is very valuable. And I just really enjoyed it. I think I give this one 5 stars actually. So that's going to be it for my March wrap-up. It's not as long as some of my other wrap-ups have been, but that's what I have to share with you. And we're going to call that good for the day. When this uploads, it's going to be Saturday, so I hope when you see this, you're having a great weekend. And I will wish you all a wonderful, magical, and bookish day. Happy reading. Adios.